Oh,
Yep, there we go. Now we're live.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, and I'm going to bring it up on my phone so that I can see the Facebook comments.
Oh, okay. Do you want to do that, or do you want to use my tablet where it's a little bigger?
Oh, no, it's fine. I'll
Okay.
just do it with I'm going to do it with my old phone because then I can make sure
We're just
the volume doesn't come
getting everything situated here.
You know, it's not our usual, although it has become, I think it's become our secondary venue. So.
I think you're right. I think we've had two of our four broadcasts from here.
Yeah.
Or we've had at least 4 broadcasts, and 2 of them at least have been from here. So this works though. We are, to let you know, we are at the Hilton Garden Inn in Mesa. We are together because it's the Addicts Summer School, and Cathe came into town, and I'm attending the summer school. And so here we are. We're together to do our broadcast from the hotel. And we are stitching away here, and Cathe's following the comments using her phone. So if she's looking down, it's not because she's ignoring anybody or anything. She's actually following the comments. And so that is good. And we're really grateful for the Hilton Garden Inn. I'll put in a little plug for them, only because they've let us use this room twice. They haven't charged us to use their conference room because it's been available.
Yeah, it's really nice of them to do that.
They've been really great. So we appreciate it tremendously. Oh, sorry. My phone rang. If I could send out a message to everybody that might possibly call me and say, please don't call me during this time, that'd be great. But that never happens. And somebody inevitably tries to call me when I'm here. We are on month 3, Cathe. Can you believe it?
I know.
It felt like it was taking forever for us to get to start because of all of because of life and delays. And now here we are in month 3. So we're on page 3 of the pattern. And that is this month's stitching assignment. So we've got a little bit more over 1 to do and lots of pretty colors to work with as we work on half of the bouquet. Now I will tell you, let me get this up in the screen. I'm going to do the bouquet up to this point. I'm not going to do this color in the bouquet. I will save that till we do this part over here. That way, again, we don't end up with that vertical line that we've talked about that we don't want when we're stitching. We want to avoid that.
So doing something more jagged so that you've got a better,
yes.
I think of it as like a zipper.
Yes, like a zipper. I call it feathering in.
Yeah.
We can, call it whatever works for you. That's the term. So I started on my assignment for the month. I started on it last night just to get my fingers wet with it. And so I completed the Dum of Kingdom.
Oh, okay.
Dum. Yes, I completed the Dum of Kingdom, and I'm just trying to get the over 1 out of the way because it's the most annoying part to do. It's the tedious.
It takes more concentration.
Yes, it does take more concentration. However, when I'm sitting here talking, it is actually, because I have a good setup here, it's actually, I think, going to be easier than trying to keep track of all of the little fiddly color changes that happen up in here. Because normally what I do, I'm a kind of a methodical stitcher when it comes to my patterns. I tend to start with my border, stitch in my border when I'm doing this, and then I come in and stitch in all the pretty fill-in stuff. But for today, I am going to work on the over 1 just because I don't have any color changes and it's not as hard to count.
Yeah.
It's not as hard to count. It's a little closer up, but with my magnifying glass, that works. So for some of you, you have magnifying glasses. Some people get away with just wearing
Cheaters.
extra cheaters.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that works really well. So tell us what you've been up to for the last month.
Well, we were able to send a bunch more kids out.
Yay!
So Pat at Lakeside had a death in the family. Her mom
Yes,
passed
that
away.
was heartbreaking.
And but she, like all of us, you deal with grief in many different ways. And she and Heather, her assistant, still got stuff done. So I was surprised
Wow.
one day when a shipment showed up. But,
Yeah, we actually
she's
had
doing
a
better.
shipment show up at the attic
yeah, and she's doing better.
that I was surprised to
We
see.
still have
but
about 120, I think, kits left to send.
Mhm.
36, 40, and some 5260.
not bad.
But we should hopefully have those done by maybe either end of this month or maybe middle of next
Good.
month. So
Good. And then
we're making progress.
for those that haven't received your kits yet, thank you so much
Yeah, thank
for
you
your
so much for
patience and
reading.
understanding.
and it's
Again,
not a race.
no, we.
So this is how much I have done.
Yes. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Here, I'm going to hold it up closer.
So that's how much I have done.
There we go. That's how much Cathe has done. So again, this is not a race. We do the stitch along to give people goals each month. But again, goals are adjustable.
Yeah.
Because life happens.
Yeah.
And
Well, and sometimes people have not just other things that crop up, but you need to get something else done for a project
Yeah.
or something, or you get to a section where you feel like not so much like you're stalled, but more like, I think I want to work on something else for a while.
yes.
Particularly when you get to the over one. So yeah, it's like you just do it as what works for you.
Mhm.
And don't really worry about it. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't want anybody to feel discouraged.
yeah, and certainly not feel like you're behind because a few people
no.
have already finished.
Well, and that's the thing. The very first stitch along I did was 3 years ago that I led. And I remember feeling frustrated as the leader because people got it done so quickly. And I thought, oh, you need to be following along each month.
Yeah.
And then I went, okay, Cheri, it's time to learn something new. And it's time to learn that it's totally okay
yeah.
to stitch at your own pace. And you get so excited about some patterns that you just want to go. And you get some patterns you're happy to follow along because it helps you put other patterns in between.
Yeah.
Because you're following along and you're not trying to get something done all in 2 or 3 months or however long it takes you to get it done. And so I learned to chill.
Yeah.
I learned to chill a little
You just kind of go
and to not be frustrated by it. And I learned to help my fellow stitchers to not be frustrated by it. Because I remember that first one, I had some stitchers go, oh, I can't believe these people are finishing. And so it's not a race. It's a journey, and enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
Enjoy the process.
Well, and I think when you do a stitch along like this, it's a multi-month thing that
Yeah.
gives you, if you are someone who you're not going to get it done right away, which I think is most of us.
Right.
Like you said, it gives you goals. It gives you I can work at this pace. If you can work at twice that pace or 4 times that pace, doesn't really matter. And even if you work at half that pace, it still doesn't really matter.
Exactly. Well, I'm doing this stitch along, and as you know, I'm doing Hannah Campbell.
Yeah.
I'm leading Hannah Campbell stitch along, and then I have my own other stitching that I like to get done. And so I set a certain amount of time aside to work on Sarah, and then I get my assignment done. Then I can put her away, and
Yeah.
then I work on, so I've done my Hannah's assignment for the month because that stitch along started about 2 weeks before Sarah did. So I try to get that one done first, and then I work on my Sarah, and then I go back. And it usually gives me about 2 weeks
It's a process.
in a month to work on what I want, my other things. I don't want to use the term that I want to work on because I want to work on these. I'm doing these because I love these patterns. And so they're part of what I want to be working on, but it's allowing me to include many things
So
in
when
what
you
I'm
do
doing.
so when you're doing your over one on the 56, do you really tighten the tension in the hoop?
I do.
To sort of open the holes up a bit more?
Absolutely. I keep it. I'll let my tension get a little floppy sometimes when I'm working on just my regular, over 2 on 56 count because I don't have any trouble seeing it. But when I'm doing this over 1, I try to keep it as tight as possible. Okay. And I'm using your tip because I love that from last time where instead of pulling this way to tighten, you pull in towards the middle to tighten. So if you can see that, I'm pulling in towards the middle to tighten, and it keeps it just tight as a drum.
Well, because what you're doing is you're taking the thing and instead of pulling it straight up, you're trying to pull it this way.
Right.
So it will follow the curve of whatever, whether it's a Q snap or whether it's a hoop or one of the spring hoops that are around. It gives you more area to be able to also have some tension to pull against.
Yes.
And it just helps get it tighter.
Yes.
Yeah, I learned that trick a bunch of years ago when somebody taught me when I first learned how to do punch needle.
Oh, okay.
And you want to get the weaver's cloth.
You want to keep that super
you
tight.
Want it tight enough that you can bounce a quarter from across the room on it. And that was their trick. And I went, that makes science sense to me.
Right, right. And I love that. So that's how I've been tightening mine ever since. And it keeps me from having to take it out of the hoop in order to tighten it.
Oh, yeah, true.
Which is what I had been doing. I'd take it out of the hoop. But that's one of the reasons that I use this hoop that I do.
Move your stitching a little closer to the camera. Your thumb is in the way.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. Oh, there we go. There we go. I'm just trying to get, sorry, I'll get it set. I'm just trying to get, so when I start my over 1, I do it by catching my thread on the back because you can't do the pin stitch on over 1. So give me just a second.
Hold it and then just
I
do
hold
one
it
stitch.
And do 1 stitch.
Okay.
And on this over 1, let me see if I caught it here. Oh, I knotted it. Lovely. That's because I'm on camera that it knotted.
Yeah,
Let's do it again.
You learn from doing it's good that happens because then people know.
Yeah, happens.
Stuff happens.
It does. Okay, I'm just going to cut this off.
Yeah.
And start with a fresh piece of floss because that one's kind of short anyway. And I have really large hands. I call my hands man hands. I'm 5'10" and I'm large boned, so I have really big hands. And so working with some of these little short pieces,
oh yeah,
really drives me nuts because I don't feel like I can hold on to them. They're always slipping out from under my fingers. So let's see, bring this down here where you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just threading my needle, and I generally, now watch, I won't be able to thread it this time. There we go. I generally don't use a needle threader, even though I'm using a size 12 beading needle, tapestry point.
You can usually get it in the hole.
I can get it in the hole as long as I wet it. Now, some people don't like to do that because they feel it's a little gross, but it's my stitching. I can wet the end of my thread if I want.
I've done it where I would keep if I'm doing eyelets, where I dip the needle in to get it wet to make the holes stay open.
Yes. Yes, you told me about that.
I keep like a little tiny Tupperware,
yes,
tiny cup next to my stitching.
Sorry,
that I can dip my needle into. So.
I love that. So what you saw me do there, and I do that on purpose. I count over
move it back
from the top.
There you
I
go.
count over from the top, run my thread through because it creates just a tiny bit bigger hole. And then I can see when I go to move my needle to the back side, I can see where my hole is.
Cool, okay.
So it helps me keep track of my...
So you use it basically almost like an awl.
Yes. Yes. And it gives me just enough of a hole that I can see it and do it that way
Okay.
to know where to start.
And then do you just tack it with the one stitch? You don't worry about whether or not you've got it, whether or not you're tacking over with 2 or 3 stitches?
My preference is to be able to tack it over 2 or 3.
Okay.
But because it's over 1 on 56 count,
It's not going anywhere.
it's not going anywhere when it's tacked with 1.
Okay.
It's not going anywhere. I've never had it pull out when I've tacked it over 1, because it hardly pulls out if it's not tacked over anything.
Well, true, yeah.
Because it's over 1 on 56 count.
Well, and quite frankly, worst case, if you did have to knot it, it really would not be the end of the world.
Right. Right. It's not
The
going
thing
anywhere.
I always tell people is like, if you do end up doing a piece where you have to knot it for some reason, that when you go to frame it, you put something between the stitching and the mat and the foam
Yes.
core that's got a little bit of give to it, so that the knots don't get pushed forward to the front of the piece.
Yes. And that
So
is.
I use like a really super thin piece of batting.
Yes. Yeah. Like the Warm and Natural works
Yeah.
great, or Warm and White. Hey, come on in. We're doing a video. Come say hi.
Come and say hi. So this is Janine from Acorns and Threads.
We
And
love
this is
Janine.
Roz, who
And
used to own
Roz.
Acorns and Threads.
Yes, hi Roz. It's so good to see you again.
They're here for the sample for summer school, and we told them that they said we should come and photobomb, and we went to
We said absolutely.
I'm not sure it's really photobombing if we are
Invited.
introduced to the channel view and all that, but whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, there is
Oh,
that.
it's so good
Yeah.
to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you. How's your progress?
Doing good here. See, I'm on month 3.
Oh.
Isn't that gorgeous?
That is beautiful.
She is just stunning.
This is my progress.
See?
Oh, you have stitches in. That's excellent.
Which I did at our weekend in Portland.
Well,
Oh,
and we spent a lot of time talking about the fact that it's okay for everybody to be at different points.
yes.
Even on a
Yes.
stitch along,
It's not a race.
it's not a race,
No.
it's a journey, and
Right.
enjoy it. It
Oh,
is.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Very good.
Are
See,
you two
nice.
off to the shop?
Yeah, we're gonna see what time the show goes, and
Okay.
we're
All
gonna
right.
head out. So
We'll see you there.
we'll see you.
I will be there for a few minutes, but I have to go back home. My daughter works this afternoon, so I've got my grandson, and but I will be back
but
for the weekend.
She's here for summer school.
Yes, I'm here for summer school, so I will, and I'll be at the shop tomorrow
Okay.
to work.
Oh, good.
Uh-huh.
All right.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Thanks for
Bye.
stopping by. Oh,
So Janine and Roz are 2 of my shop owner buddies. With Jean at the Attic, and Deb at Stitchville, and Janice at Traditional Stitches, and we are collectively known as the Needlework Mafia.
and they are. They
Yeah.
are the needlework mafia.
Yeah, someone one year eons ago said they called us that because they figured we knew where the bodies were buried, and we looked at him and said, perhaps maybe because we're the ones who buried them. He just kind of looked startled for a moment.
I love
And
that.
then, okay.
I love that. It's a true story, though. It's a true story. So let's see.
But
Yes,
shop
I
owner
think you
friends
can
are great.
see. I think everybody can see. I've got to adjust my. There we go. Now I can see along with the camera. I know I keep my thumb really close to what I'm stitching on. It's part of my guide for where to come up.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Just kind of gives your eyeball a placement.
yes, for that hand-eye coordination.
Yeah. Well,
And
I was talking
especially
to-
when I'm working
I
on
was
such
talking
tiny
to
stitches.
some ladies last night who were here at the hotel for her summer school, and one of them is doing a piece on 56, and one of the other people was marveling at doing it, and I said, the trick for any count that you don't normally stitch on, that's denser than what you normally stitch on, is to stitch on it for like 10-15 minutes every night for like a week.
Yes.
And don't stitch on anything else, just that.
Yes.
Because eventually there'll be an aha moment when your eyeballs and your brain actually make the connection.
Yes.
And then
you make that
and then
hand-eye
it-
coordination.
And then it sees and goes, oh, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I'm looking for that, that's because I did that after Jean coerced me a number of years ago into working on a 45 count.
Jean's
And-
known for that. She's
and-
known for coercion.
And she was like, I don't understand why you're not working on well, because I just don't find it enjoyable. She goes, so just stitch on it for a few nights. And I did, and it took about 4 for me. And then I finally got to the point where my eyes and my brain made the connection and went, oh, I can see this now.
Yes.
So it's like familiarity breeds acceptance.
Yes.
And at some point, your brain actually sorts it out and goes, okay, that's what I'm looking for to find the holes.
Exactly. Jean coerced me into trying 56 count. She's the one that got me going on it too. And I have found I really enjoy it because there's a challenge to it for me. It helps keep I feel like it helps keep my brain alive. Because again, I spend my days talking to a 5-year-old. And so there aren't really deep intellectual conversations going on.
You just need to teach him to stitch now.
I do. Although he doesn't have great hand-eye coordination yet.
No, but it can help him.
Yes, that's true.
So there's like
Get that canvas.
So this is a note for any of you who are potentially teaching kids or anybody who has even visual impairment issues. Is there is a 7-count Ada fabric called Herda.
Okay.
There's Herda and Herderette, and they're 6 and 7 counts. They look enormous in comparison to normal Ada, but they work great for teaching kids because with Ada you still get that block
Right.
thing, but the holes are big enough and the squares are big enough that you can stitch it with like a Pearl 3.
Okay. So it's
and
easy. You can use the bigger needles.
You can use a bigger needle. Yeah, we don't usually recommend using the plastic ones because the plastic ones can break and that can be more of an issue.
Right.
But use like a number 13 tapestry needle.
Right.
They make them.
Okay.
And it's a great way to do that. Or use 7 or 10 count canvas.
Yes.
And then just let them do needlepoint on it or cross
I
stitch.
love
or whatever
that.
they want to do.
I love that. Well, I may have to try that with my grandson because he loves to sit and watch grandma cross stitch. Because as I told you the other day, I am now homeschooling my grandson.
Yeah.
We had him enrolled in a charter school, and they had 6 kindergarten classes, and his had 35 kids in it.
Oh my gosh.
And
that's
1
too
teacher.
many.
It was nuts.
That's
And
kind of
he
motivating.
has some anxiety issues anyway,
Yeah.
even at 5. And he was having stomach issues because of it, and it was just not going well.
Not the right time.
And so 2.5 weeks in, we pulled him. We looked at putting him in a public school that was closer to our house. And because my daughter and grandson live with us. And we thought we had things worked out for him to go there. And then had him registered and they went, oh, darn, we don't have room for him. And we went, really? You told, yeah,
You
anyway.
couldn't have told us this would be outside.
Yeah, exactly. You couldn't have told us that 4 days ago before we pulled him out of school.
Yeah.
So we didn't feel like putting him back at the charter school was the right thing because, again, it wasn't going to change the class sizes or the fact that it was pandemonium. And so grandma's homeschooling
Okay.
for kindergarten at least. And
Well, yeah, getting him to work on something like that would be useful because then even you're not really after having him try to even hit the holes.
right,
What you really want to get him to learn to do is use the needle and
Right.
try to pull the thread through without pulling the thread out of the needle. And that for a kid's is actually as much of an issue. I mean, it is with adults many
Right,
times
yeah,
as well.
yeah. yeah, but for
But with
little,
kids, it's
yeah,
more of an issue of the whole motion of pull it through the fabric, pull it to the back, and come back up again from the back because they're
because you want to do
you want to
this.
go what you did
You
before.
want to do this, yes. I
And that might
love
help
that.
with
I'm
his-
going to do
might
that.
help
That
with his
would,
hand-eye
it
coordination.
would. It absolutely
And
would.
then you're not really worried. There's no right or wrong. It's like
No.
just play with it, see what you come up with. It'll be cute no matter what it is.
My nephew, when he was 6 or 7, so Caden's almost his age, was his age. My nephew would climb up on the back of the sofa and lean over me while I was cross stitching.
Oh, fun.
And so we ended up buying him some plastic canvas, and he he had phenomenal hand-eye coordination. This little guy at 2 years old was using little screwdrivers to take screws out of the back of anything he could get. So he has phenomenal hand-eye coordination. And his first thing he stitched was a spaceship.
Cool.
He just, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, kind of a fun thing to do. I also tell people, it's like, if you're going to have a child in particular learn to stitch, you don't need to buy them a kit. Just get some fabric, find one of their favorite coloring books, or something like that. Draw on the fabric directly.
I love that.
And then just let them fill it in, and you're not really worried about whether or not they're filling it in the right place. Kind of like you're not worried about whether they're coloring in the right place.
Right.
Just get them
because they're just coloring with thread.
Well, and you just get them used to the idea that fabric and thread is another artistic medium.
Right.
That it's not just something that grandma does or mom does.
Oh, I love that.
It's like,
I
can play with thread.
This is going to be our art project.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do.
And it's something you already do, so he
yes.
sees you, so.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for that suggestion.
You're welcome.
Because he'll learn so much from that.
Yeah, move it back down.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
When my girls were in elementary school, my two older girls, not my youngest, my two older girls, at different points with different teachers, I used to quilt. I used to quilt all the time. And I did projects where we went in and they worked on shapes and putting those shapes together and hand sewing, and they hand sewed these blocks together. And then I put them onto a foundation and turned them into quilts for their teachers.
Oh, cool.
But they were part of their math class.
Oh, to do the
because we were doing the geometry of it.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was so much fun. I loved that. That was some of my favorite memories. So I think I can create some favorite things then with my grandson by doing the cross stitching.
Yeah.
I love that. So that is a fantastic
Yeah, remind
idea.
me and I'll send you some of the Huda.
Oh, good, because I don't have
I
access
sell
to
it. I buy it because we sell it to several teachers.
Okay.
At private schools who
Gotcha.
teach it. Who use it to teach kids how to do cross stitch for art projects.
Okay, good. Yes. I will get that from you because
it looks gigantic in comparison to what we normally
but for a 5-year-old, that's just perfect.
Yeah, it is. It's a really
that
great.
is just ideal.
And I've even had some older adults whose vision has gone wonky.
Yeah, and their joy is still cross
That
stitching.
they still want to cross stitch.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't matter if you're doing it on 7 count or you're doing it on 56. The important part is your stitching.
Right. So this is one of our.
So this was I was gonna thread up a needle, and if you wanted to show how to do the overrun.
Oh, wonderful! I would love that.
And for those of you who are not in the Hannah Campbell stitch along, when we do it on Sunday, Cheri's going to cover doing overrun.
Yes. So
Okay,
if you would like to join between now and then,
Yeah,
go
you
on.
can either join the group or or you can follow it on our
Right.
on Needle in a Haystacks on our YouTube channel because I
Right.
send it to there as well.
But yes, we're going to go over how to read over one because I had in the Hannah Campbell group, because there's oodles of over one in that pattern. More than just letters.
Way more in it than there
More
is.
than just letters. There's birds that are over one and other motifs that are over one. And so if you've never read an over one pattern, it's confusing at first.
Yeah.
It's confusing. And so we're going to go over that. I've had the request from one of our stitchers, and I figured it's good to have that in video and the process down. So yeah, but this is 28 count
This is
stitcher.
28 count.
Okay.
We need count, and then all I have is my Swasserfine, but that's okay.
Oh, that's all right. It'll actually help them see each individual stitch easier. Sorry, when I do this on camera, I tend to miss those little tiny holes.
Well, I think it's more that
More-
we end up talking, and then
Yeah, well, and I'm a little different angle with my magnifying glass than I am when I'm sitting at home. And so it makes it a little harder for me to
I
find the
stuck one
holes.
in there just so it would anchor them.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna put this down and I'll show this. Anchor that down. There we go. Wonderful. So this is 28 count. So as you can see, it's much easier to see the holes. And I'll bring that as close so you can see
Yeah,
those
there you go.
holes. And we have one stitch already anchored in. So first I'm going to show you on the pattern just kind of how to read it. And let me bring this in close. There we go. Actually, I'm going to show you regular spot first. Okay, so on a regular one, each symbol, there's one symbol per square on a regular over 2 cross stitch on linen, or if you're doing 1 cross stitch on Aida. And that represents 1 stitch over 2. When you get to, I'm going to get my scissors out so I can use it as a pointer. When you get to over 1, there we go. Let's get that down where I can see it. When you get to over 1, if you can tell, in this instance, there are 2 stitches. And then if this was all filled in, there would be 4 stitches that would fit where 1 stitch goes on a regular cross stitch. So that's how you count that.
So if you look in the files tab in the Facebook group, there's my over 1 instructions, the PDF,
Yes.
and it shows you what the thread in the fabric looks like when you're doing this.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a regular over 2 cross stitch, and I'm going to do this in hand, which I'm really clumsy at.
Yeah,
But
bring
this is,
bring it towards you.
oh, there we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so this is a regular over 2 cross stitch.
Yeah, bring it in a little bit more. It's gotten back into the shadow. There you
There
go.
we go. Okay, so an over 2 cross stitch. You know what? I'm going to move the camera. I'm going to move I'm just
I
going
was
to
gonna
keep
say
my
you might be
light.
able to do it without
I can
the
do it
light.
without I need the light, but I don't need the magnifying glass. So there we go.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay, so I'm going to show you the over 2, which would be a regular stitch. And so you have your regular cross stitch, which is over 2.
And do you normally do each stitch as you go?
I always do because I stitch with over dies and I stitch with solids.
Yeah.
And with over dies, you want to do each stitch individually. And I'm not good with the sewing method, which would allow you to just go across and then back. So I complete each stitch as I go. So
Yeah, I've gotten in the habit of doing it just because I stitch so much with hand-dyed stuff.
yes.
If I don't do it that way, then.
So there is a stitch. I'm going to see if I can get the light on there a little better.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. There we go. That is a regular cross stitch over 2. So in this then, when you're doing over 1, you would end up with 4 little stitches in that same space. So I'm going to do 4 little stitches. So here would be 1, and I'm just going over 1 thread to the diagonal, down one thread to pick up my corner, and over one and diagonal one
And if you find that when
thread.
you're doing this, that your thread slips to the back,
Yes.
then change where you bring up the second part
Yes.
of the leg.
Yes.
Because depending on, so if normally you stitch bottom left to top right, when you come down and then go to the top left, on some threads it will slip. So you
Yep.
would start in the top left and go to the bottom right.
Well, and what I tell people is take the longest route possible
Yeah.
to create your over one stitches. And I have had times where where even doing that, it's buried itself, and I'll just come back and do another stitch over it.
Yeah.
And then it stays in place, and it doesn't add any extra bulk because that thread has buried itself down into the weave. But then it stays where you want it
It's
to.
less of a problem on the denser weaves. It's more of a problem on like 25, 28.
Yes. Yes.
Because there's more surface area, a gap between the threads for it to be able to, for it to slide.
So there I have 2 stitches, top and bottom, on that would equal this side of a regular cross stitch, and now I'm creating the 2 to the right side. And then here comes the top one. So then you can see.
And doing 4 stitches over 1 versus 1 stitch over 2 with a thin thread will give you better coverage. So if you're
It's beautiful.
If you're working on a piece where you only have, say, Swasserfine, and it's a 28 count, and you're like, I don't know how to make this look okay, you could do it this
Yeah.
way to make it fill it out. I wouldn't want to do an entire piece that way because it'd be way more stitching, but you could do it in a pinch if you needed to.
You could to give a
To
little
build more
motif,
depth.
some depth. And so if you can, so as you can see, is that clear? Yeah, that's clear.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's our over 2, and that's our over 1. And so you get a little more coverage
more
that way.
coverage.
And you can take a pattern that is strictly traditional cross stitch over 2 and do it all over 1 if you want it small.
Mhm.
I did Portefeuille, which is a pattern that was 710 stitches wide by 330 stitches high.
Wow.
She was huge, and I couldn't afford a framer even if I'd done it on 56 count
It's just what it
because
needs
she
to
was
be.
so huge. So I stitched her the whole thing over 1 on 37 count.
Yeah.
And she turned out gorgeous.
Yeah.
She was just absolutely
Well,
stunning.
you get a density of stitching over 1 that you don't get over 2, even
Right.
if you're stitching with a thicker thread.
Right.
So if you find a count that you like, yeah, you can just park that.
Yeah.
If you
Park
find
that
a
right
count that you like for over 1 work, then you can, like if you're doing something like a piece that's just that all it is cross stitched and it's over 2, then
Yeah.
it's perfectly
Yeah.
great way to do it.
Yeah, it worked really well.
Do we have anything else we need to cover today?
I think we've covered everything.
Yeah.
I think we've done good. So anyway, be excited, keep stitching, plug it along.
If you watch the replay and you have any questions, just post them as comments and
Yeah.
we'll get back to you.
I know
over
we
the
didn't give you a lot of heads up on when this video was going to be, just because we were trying to work out schedules
The last-
and
The last 2 or 3 weeks have been kind of loosey-goosey for both of us.
Yeah. so. But we appreciate you joining us and then watching this whenever it's convenient. We love doing this.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah, so post any comments and
Yeah.
any questions as comments
And
we'll get back to you.
We'll answer them. And if you want to see a little more in-depth coverage on doing over 1,
Well, you and I can do a little video of that over the weekend and then we
We
can
can.
post just that.
okay,
Because then that way
We
we
can
can
do
make
that.
the camera angle work a little bit
Perfect.
more clearly.
Perfect.
So we'll do that some point over the weekend. We'll do a little lesson on Overwin,
Yeah.
just not as a live thing, but as an actual video that we can post to the group.
Yes, perfect. And so we'll do that. And otherwise, have let's see, today is Thursday. So have a marvelous upcoming weekend.
Yeah.
Stay cool.
It's supposed to maybe get under 100 here on Saturday.
It is, which would be miraculous for us. Because our July was 110 or above every single day of the month.
Yeah,
And over half the month was 115 and above.
yeah.
It was brutal month. So we were thrilled when August hit and things were a
I
little
saw
less
lightning last
evil.
night, but I did not see any rain.
We had rain down in Arizona City. I live an hour,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
For those that don't know, I live an hour south of the shop, of the attic, and an hour south of where the event is being held. So
So you actually got a little bit of
I
rain.
did get a little bit. I could see it on my car. My car looks terrible this morning.
Okay. Which is, in a weird way, a good thing.
Yes. So my car looked terrible. But yes, so I think we're done. Thanks for joining
Thanks
us.
for joining us, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
We'll talk to you later.
Keep on stitching.
Yes.
And we'll see you next month
Yes.
from somewhere.
Somewhere.